if we don't stay grounded in our why, if we lose sight of our why, all we're left with is a social club. Hey everybody, it's Mike from Catholic Treehouse, and I'd like to welcome you to episode 27 of the Saint in Progress podcast, your source for inspiration, information, and directions for your soul's journey back home to the Father's house. Also a little bit of Pittsburghese thrown in for spice and flavor on occasion. And as always, you can find us at catholictreehouse.com or saintinprogress.com, and also on Substack at catholictreehouse.substack.com. So can you believe that June is almost here? I mean, my gosh, like that's just nuts. And I'll tell you what else is nuts is this weather in central Ohio. I mean, I had to turn the heat back on this past week because temps got back down into the low 50s. And the rain, to borrow a line from Father Mike Schmitz from Bible in a Year, man, oh man, guys. So, I thought that my daughter's softball season would be done by now, but it's not. So they won the semifinal, but the championship game had to get rescheduled. So for those of you who want to know how the season ended up, you'll just have to wait another week and tune back in next week. So with June coming up fast, you're probably thinking about vacations and the pool and all that. And the church, well, we kind of go back to ordinary time with green vestments. Predominantly. So our OCIA programs and PSR programs are wound down for the summer and everything kind of just takes on a different tone, right? But the months of June, July, and August aren't to be forgotten about from the church perspective. You see, the church has designated each one of these to a different thing. Like we're coming out of May, which everyone knows is the month of Mary, right? We have May crowning and Mother's Day. We sing Marian hymns, but too many people take a spiritual nap through the summer. School's out, so it's time to light the grill and start shooting off fireworks and go fishing and stuff. Well, if you take a spiritual nap, it's a shame because the months of June, July, and August each have a dedication that can really inflame your faith life. So first up is June, the month of the Sacred Heart. So this year, the Solemnity of the Sacred Heart is on June 27th. So you have the whole month to prepare to celebrate the special feast. Now, I'm not going to spend the show talking about the devotion because I have too much ground to cover. But what I will say is that the church celebrating the Sacred Heart of Jesus came several hundred years before all the pride stuff popped up, where it went from we need a day to we need a weekend to, hey, let's take over the whole month. Now, I have opinions on all this, as I'm sure you're probably guessing, but I'm not going to talk about them, at least not in this setting and this forum and on this podcast, because this show is about you and your journey back home to the Father's house, and it's not about me and my opinions. What I will say is that June is a great month to fan your flames for the love of the Sacred Heart of Jesus. If you haven't already done so, enthrone your home to the Sacred Heart. You can find out more at welcomehisheart.com. That is the home of the Sacred Heart Enthronement Network, which happens to be headquartered here in Columbus, Ohio. And there you can find out all about the 12 promises of the Sacred Heart that Jesus told St. Margaret Mary Alacoque. And if you want some Sacred Heart merch, you can fly your colors for the month of June. Catholic Treehouse has a selection of stuff from banners and flags and t-shirts to mugs and stickers and yard signs. So, of course, there's also the Sacred Heart Book of Devotions, which has all of the prayers, litanies, novenas, hymns, and daily devotions that can help you grow deeper in your devotion to the Sacred Heart. So all that stuff you can find at catholictreehouse.com or sacredheartstore.com. So if you haven't enthroned your home, or if you want to do a novena for special intention, start planning now. Okay, so that's the month of June. The month of July is devoted to the precious blood of Jesus. In that month, we're called to meditate on how Jesus poured out his precious blood to save humanity. Now, there are special prayers and devotions to this as well, including the chaplet of the precious blood. And there's a lot of meditations and prayers on and to the precious blood. So there's even some religious orders, such as the Sisters of the Precious Blood, who have a particular devotion to this. So I'll post some more stuff as we get closer to July, but you can, of course, just start doing some research on your own. There's tons of stuff out there. It's really easy to find. August is dedicated to the Immaculate Heart of Mary. And that's when we celebrate the Solemnity of the Assumption. So Father Bonaventure Hammer, who I read from during Lent with the Seven Sorrows of Mary, he has a great novena reflection on the Assumption that I'll be doing in August, exclusively on the podcast. So again, we have the opportunity. If you want to do something like St. Louis de Montfort's total consecration to Mary, we have the opportunity to plan it for a Marian feast day in August. So this is a good time to really reflect on how we want to spend our summer spiritually so we don't take a nap. Now, I think it's awesome that we as a church celebrate the Sacred Heart and the Immaculate Heart. Unfortunately, St. Joseph doesn't get a month, but the Most Chaste Heart of Joseph is a devotion in its own right, and you can look that up as well. But I think we can learn a lot from the three hearts that the church celebrates. We can learn a lot by looking at the three of them as a family and how they related to each other. That's something that I'll get into in a future podcast. Now, I mentioned in an earlier episode that one of my observations throughout Lent with the fish fries and stuff is that some people kind of look at the church as a club. Now, some people actually asked, can I come to your fish fry if I'm not Catholic? I mean, really. I've also heard this about our parish festival. I mean, some people didn't know that, yes, you can come and eat our burgers and ride our rides if you're not Catholic. But some people within the church also take it's a club mentality. You need to be very careful they don't start to think of where we get our faith as just a social club. Like, I have many friends in my parish, and there's lots of social activities that go on. It's where my kids go to school. It's where we have the bulk of our friends. But it's not like I'm going to stop being Catholic if my friends move, or if, God forbid, one of them leaves the Catholic Church, or if they start going to a different parish because it's closer to them, or they like the priest over there better or something. Now, if we don't stay rooted in and grounded in the why of our church, and spoiler alert, that why is Jesus Christ truly present in the Eucharist. If we don't stay grounded in that, then over time it's just a collection of people we're friends with, or a collection of people that grow increasingly annoying to us, that causes us to not maybe go to church anymore. So if we don't stay grounded in our why, if we lose sight of our why, all we're left with is a social club with a hopefully charismatic motivational speaker that we go to listen to once a week. Now, I don't know about you, but there's tons of informational and motivational speakers that you can find on YouTube. And there's lots of social clubs. The church is neither one of those things. That's why we need to focus on our why. Now, the other danger is focusing our why on how we serve the parish through different ministries. Like, say you're involved in the Knights of Columbus or St. Vincent de Paul. It can be very easy to sit there and see your why as to why you go to a specific parish, why you do what you do, and why you belong and everything else. It's easy to confuse our why with our what. Well, why are you Catholic? Well, because I work in the food pantry. No, that's the wrong reason. So if you're doing it like that, it's treating it like a club. And the source and summit of our faith, our why, needs to be Jesus Christ truly present, body, blood, soul, and divinity in the sacrament of the Eucharist. Everything else is great, but it's the what. It's the fruit of our faith, not the why. Be sure to keep that in mind. Now, speaking about religious orders and St. Vincent de Paul, Knights of Columbus, clubs, all that stuff, I want to wrap up with talking about religious orders. And now our new Pope, Pope Leo XIV, is an Augustinian, the first Augustinian Pope, I might add. And Pope Francis, well, he was a Jesuit. So what do these terms mean? Well, it means that they were not from the ranks of diocesan priests, but rather they're from religious orders. Now, what's the difference? Well, diocesan priests serve their bishops, and they take vows of celibacy and obedience. They're primarily pastoral, and they generally are the people you see running the parish. Now, a bishop may invite a religious order in to run a parish. That does happen. There are several parishes here in Columbus that are run by religious orders. But in general, most of the priests that you see, most of the parishes that you attend, are run by diocesan priests. So they live in the rectory, and they basically work for the bishop. They're working for him at his discretion. Religious orders are different. They belong to a community, like the Augustinians or the Jesuits or the Benedictines. And so they follow a certain rule of life that is specific to their order. They take vows of chastity, poverty, and obedience. So that poverty is different, right? And some orders, like the Mercedarians, take a fourth vow that is specific to their order. And they live in community with other members of the order, and they follow the direction of their religious superior rather than a bishop. Now, orders typically have a rule that is, that they follow, and this rule can be of several different flavors. The Augustinian rule is one of the oldest, and in addition to the Augustinians, it's followed by Dominicans and Mercedarians and Trinitarians, among some others. But there's also other rules like the rule of St. Benedict, which is followed by a bunch of different ones, like Cistercians. So you can look up what the various different rules are and what the members of the order are supposed to follow. And all that stuff is obviously available online, real easy to follow. All you do is you look up and say, the rule of St. Augustine, and you'll find a million different sources that have all basically the same information. Now, here's where I turn to you, my fellow saints in progress, and pull this entire episode together. There is the possibility that you have a strong pull toward a certain type of spirituality. Now, this isn't a who is my favorite saint thing, but more of a what moves your soul thing. Now, a good spiritual director can help you figure out if you have a tendency toward one or another. And if you do, there are available to you what's called religious third orders, which are for members of the laity. There's all sorts. There's Dominican and Benedictine and Franciscan and Carmelite and Mercedarian. There's lay missionaries of the precious blood. There's Redemptorists and a whole host of others. Now, each one has a rule of life that even lay members take a vow to follow. They have meetings and retreats, but what differentiates them from being clubs is that the why of their existence is, you guessed it, to deepen their faith. Now, they might do things such as, run a food pantry or whatever, but in general, their purpose, the purpose of being as a third order, is to live their order's rule. And in living the rule, you're deepening your spiritual life. Now, are you called to join a third order? Well, that takes some time and discernment. Now, working with my spiritual director, I determined that at least right now, joining a third order isn't for me. I'm still wavering back and forth between Dominican third order and Benedictine third order. I also feel a pull towards the writing of the Carmelites. It's kind of a mixed bag for me at this point. So it's not really something that I can put myself into following a rule of life for one of these orders. I am, however, working on my own rule of life, but that's still very much a work in progress, just as I and all of you are saints in progress, right? But developing a rule of life for those people who are not called to a religious third order is something I'll discuss in a future episode. So take some time and plan out your summer and how you're going to spend June, July, and August. If you're going on a trip or sitting poolside, it's a good time to do some spiritual reading, or prayerfully discern if you're called to join a religious third order and which one it might be. So just a few things for you to think and pray about. So for now, that's all I have. My fellow saints in progress, I pray that God blesses you this week. And as always, remember that you are a saint in progress. So go out there and be a saint.